AlphaGoat, so basically gaming's ChatGPT moment. So it's a new way for players to engage with games and do value creation. So just like in maybe sports management sims, you don't really play the sports game yourself. You're like directing the team and choosing the tactics and customizing and training and kind of optimizing how they perform over time. I think AI agents will serve in a similar way, and there'll be many different games that they can compete in. And then players can decide how their agents will specialize in the kind of things they do and the kind of risk profile. And so the players go from becoming scholars to becoming guild leaders and guild managers. And so that's a different skill set, right? Rather than grinding for hours every day, it's more about strategy and how you deploy the resources that you have and what you optimize for. And so that I think players with maybe a little less time but more strategic leverage will actually perform better over the long run.
Web3 Gaming Interviews with Regina.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for another Web3 Gaming interview with your host, Regina. And today we have a very special guest joining us today from Goat Gaming. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Hi, Regina. Thanks for having me. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So to start, could you please introduce yourself and share how you got started or involved with the Web3 Gaming?
Wow. Yeah, so I'm Simon. I'm the CEO at Mighty Bear Games. We make Goat Gaming, which is the biggest real money gaming platform on Telegram. So it's a platform with many different games where players can compete and they can win prizes. So how did I get started in Web3? So I've been making games now since 2004. So it's my 21st year in the games industry. First game I shipped was on the PS2. Yeah, a long time ago. So I started the studio Mighty Bear in 2016. We were a traditional mobile game studio. We had a number of pretty successful Web2 games. So we were one of the first developers on Apple Arcade. We made a game called Battle Royale, which is a big food fight game that did very well. We did a game with Disney. But in 2021, I decided the studio would go all in on Web3. And so personally, I've been buying and trading Bitcoin since 2015. We had people on the team also who had been Ethereum miners and had been like CryptoKitties players. So the team actually was pretty crypto native for a Web2 studio. And we could just see that what was happening with Web3, with Axie at that moment in time and NFTs kicking off made a lot of sense from a gamer perspective. We do think that digital asset ownership is essentially going to be a huge part of the future of gaming. And so we decided to go all in 2021. And then early 2024, we realized that Telegram was the best way to reach 1 billion consumers, because you have 1 billion people using Telegram every month. It's got a built-in crypto wallet. And so for us, that made a ton of sense to go all in there and start building there. And so that's how we got to where we are today.
That's awesome, Simon. So since you mentioned you started about around 2015, it's about 10 years or a decade now. So I believe that foundation is very helpful for you to why Goat Gaming is one of the successful TG game. In line with that introduction of yours, we are also wondering what inspired the creation of Goat Gaming, and how did your experience from the Mighty Bear games influence its vision?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when we founded Mighty Bear, the vision for the studio was that we would create games which were playable by everyone, but had a lot of depth. And so the very first game we built actually was a massively multiplayer online game. That was in 2017. I had hair when we started that project, so I don't recommend building MMOs. We're a very small team as well. We're only 9 people. But we've always had a vision for taking games which have a lot of depth, but making them very accessible. And that really works very well on Telegram, because Telegram is about short sessions. You've got 5 minutes. You want to get in and out and maybe have meaningful progress. Prior to working or founding my studio, I worked at King, which is a company that makes Candy Crush. And so if you want games that you can play while you're queuing for your coffee, like they are the kings of that. And so that was a very useful skill set. And so for us, like the way that we'd been creating games before actually was perfectly suited to what we're doing today on Telegram. And we're providing these immediate experiences where maybe you're entertained for 5 or 10 minutes and you have a chance to win a prize. And I think we can all agree that games are better with prizes.
I still remember the hype, the name given by the Goat Gaming way back last year. Even our team created an article with the Goat Gaming. Yeah, so in line with that, here's my next question. Goat Gaming gained over 5 million active users on Telegram since its launch last year. So with that, what drove the decision to use Telegram as the main platform and not using the other platforms? Aside what you mentioned a while ago, it's convenient, easy to use.
Yeah, I mean, you have 1 billion users, right, using the app every single month. They're starved for content. A lot of the games there are not super strong. And if you look at the traditional app stores, you have companies like King, who I mentioned before, Supercell that makes Clash of Clans, Playrix, these social casino companies. Many of them have got marketing budgets in the tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And so if you're competing on those traditional app stores, you have to compete with people that have just these massive marketing budgets. We're a small company, we're fewer than 50 people. And so for us, it made sense for us to go to Telegram, where there is this massive underserved audience that we know we can reach and we can dominate from a user acquisition and marketing perspective as well, as you see with, getting to 5.5 million users in a short amount of time. And so for us, it was about going where the players are and where we can win on distribution as well.
We all know that Goat Gaming is one of the Telegram games that engage or highly recommending the use of AI. So with that, you guys also created the Alpha Goats. So with that Alpha Goats, now it is redefining what means to the play to earn in TG. So in line also with that, could you please also provide us insight what inspired the development of these autonomous AI agents and how do they enhance both competition and community involvement?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we just released the proof of concept for the Alpha Goats last week, which is I think it's the world's first community agent. Her name is Amy, and she hangs on the community channels and she chats via audio directly with community members and also via chat. And so she's available for certain hours every day. It seems to be very popular. So from an engagement perspective, we're already creating virtual personas or almost like digital KOLs that represent the community and engaging with the community and providing new ways for them to kind of become acquainted with the ecosystem and stay engaged. And players can even speak to Amy one-on-one, which is a really interesting thing, right? And so she's a proof of concept for what we're building. But we think that Alpha Goats are basically gaming's ChatGPT moment. So it's a new way for players to engage with games and do value creation. So just like in maybe sports management sims, you don't really play the sports game yourself. You're like directing the team and choosing the tactics and customizing and training and kind of optimizing how they perform over time. I think AI agents will serve in a similar way, and there'll be many different games that they can compete in, and then players can decide how their agents will specialize in the kind of things they do and the kind of risk profile. And so the players go from becoming scholars to becoming guild leaders and guild managers. And so that's a different skill set, right? Rather than grinding for hours every day, it's more about strategy and how you deploy the resources that you have and what you optimize for. And so that I think players with maybe a little less time but more strategic leverage will actually perform better over the long run.
Yeah, actually, when I checked, it's really amazing when you guys recently launched it last May 12, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I believe this is one of the cutting edge for the AI, especially with the twist or in the terms of Web3. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add on to this. Like, a lot of people are talking about AI agents in games, and there's a lot of hype. But as far as I know, we're the only team that's actually shipping this. This stuff is actually hard. I think for me, it's personal. But most of the AI opportunities in crypto are reserved for investors, right? People with money. Alpha Goats were created with a community in mind to kind of give away for everyone, either developers or investors or players, to create, compete, and find a way to also earn.
And kudos for that. One of the first game which launched this integration or this innovation. Okay, next, Simon. Goat Gaming has been very vocal about its goal to onboard the next billion users into the Web3 game. Could you please tell us how are you making the vision more accessible to casual gamers and not only just for crypto native users?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you're just focused on crypto native users, like you said, you minimize the market for your game. It's a big audience, but it's not a billion players, right? And so if you really want to achieve mass scale, you need to cross over to players that are not motivated by airdrops necessarily, or just looking for a crypto payout. And so the thing that we think about is what gameplay archetypes can we create that will appeal to my mother? When she can come in for 5 minutes a day and maybe win a small prize or have a little competition with their friends. If you look again at like traditional mobile free-to-play, you have social casino apps that do this with virtual slots with no payout, or you have games like Candy Crush. Like there's a whole litany of these kind of mobile games that have hundreds of millions of monthly users playing like very accessible games. And so I think for us there's a real learning in there, and seeing how we can bring those types of experiences to Telegram and create dynamics where people want to play and engage and play these games with their friends. And then the fact that they can win a prize, so there's like a crypto element, is almost like the icing on the cake that you can use to kind of supercharge engagement.
Since you mentioned you guys have one of the biggest community in Telegram, so we are also wondering how fast your community growing. So could you please share us one of the secrets to acquire this effective strategies which you guys keep your players engaged, especially for the retention? Because
go ahead, please.
Yeah, so as we all know, having a retention with the specific program or product is very hard. So could you please share us your secrets, spice for this one?
There's no secret sauce. We work very hard. So we have releases almost daily. Some weeks we release 2 or 3 times a week. So updates like 2 or 3 times a week, which is basically unheard of. But most teams ship an update every 2 to 4 weeks. And so community's always got something to keep them engaged. We're always giving out real rewards. We speak to the community on a weekly basis as well, so we don't hide, or they're always available to them. And so we're always thinking of small and new things to kind of keep them playing and kind of give them new things to do. And so I think it's just that constant stream of content. But, it's a lot of work, and you have to think cleverly as a developer, like, how can I provide fresh content that isn't, very slow to create and very labor intensive, and we can do things which are lightweight and regular that keep things fresh.
As a player, because I'm just a newbie to Web3 gaming, and having this connection with your community, I believe it's also one of the success strategy for certain games. So kudos to your team. You're listening. You're actively listening to your community, and with that, you're also creating inline games, or what do you call this? Mini games, right? Which makes the game not boring. As per checking also from my research, you guys recently secured $15 million in funding. So with 4 million coming for your latest strategic rounds, how will these funds accelerate Goat Gaming's infrastructures or the AI tooling and some expansion plans?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very thoughtful question. I think for us, the money is primarily for growing the ecosystem and developing content. And so we have like very detailed plans of what we want to build, not just for the next year, but the next 2 to 3 years, and really executing on that roadmap. And then as well as kind of thinking about the future of the GG token and how that's going to launch. And those funds will also go towards that. And so both the content and the token will be the primary use of funds. So always looking at new opportunities, and having that in reserve gives us the flexibility to maybe try new things and maybe expand the team a bit as well.
Funding is also, we need to manage it correctly so we can run the business in the long term. Aside from the alpha goals, what new features or partnership or game expansions can players look forward this year, 2025? And how do they fit into Goat Gaming long-term roadmap?
Yeah, we've got a massive amount of content coming out this year. So just in the next few weeks, we have season 4 of Goat Gaming coming, which will have a new hero game. So there'll be a new game at the very core of Goat Gaming. We haven't unveiled what that will be, but I think if you've been following my tweets lately, you'll start to get an idea that maybe it ties in with Telegram collectibles and kind of the broader Telegram ecosystem, and provides kind of new ways to engage with these kind of communities. So if you like Telegram collectibles, there's going to be a lot there for you. New game experiences. There's big additions coming to Amy. So I'm not going to leak too much alpha, but there's going to be a major upgrade to Amy that's going to benefit the Alpha Goats holders. And then through the rest of the year, there's a ton of content and upgrades coming. So Yeah, I think if you look at the app in December versus this month, it will look like a completely different product. The rate of shipping is really good. So I'm super excited to see what happens over the next few months.
With that merch, I'm also excited what will be. And yeah, it's really amazing how you guys swiftly, very fast to shift the integration, the innovation with the AlphaGoat and Goat Gaming itself. I'm really excited what more Goat Gaming will bring us in the Web3 gaming industry. I know you are in the almost 10 years in the making for the making games from Web 2 shifting to Web 3. So could you please share just focus for the Goat Gaming. So could you please share, Simon, what are the one of the biggest challenges you've faced while building this Goat Gaming, and how you bridges it to the traditional gaming, then integrate the AI and the blockchain, and how you guys overcome them?
These are very complex questions. So I think the first one is that building in Web3 is just fundamentally different to Web2. So you have a community which are not just players, but they also sometimes have a stake in your ecosystem, right? Maybe they own the NFTs. Maybe they've been grinding for the airdrop. Maybe they've spent money on future token allocations. So that relationship is very different. And so you have to treat them almost like investors in a way. Building in public in Web3 is also quite punishing because, you know, when everything's going well, it's great. But if you build in public and you realize you have to delay something, then you have to communicate it. Whereas if you're building closed, you just don't communicate stuff until it's like ready. And so the players get that transparency, but it comes with up and downsides. I think on the blockchain side, it's made us really reevaluate how we design a lot of things. So often you have to design with value in mind as well. Like you have to think about the people that bought the NFTs, that bought the AlphaGoats, and make sure anything you're building makes sense for them. It definitely is much, you know, like I said, I built my first game in 2004, right, on the PlayStation 2. And so that was back in the day, you just put a disc in a box and then you just forget about it. And like, your job was done. This is a 24/7 job. And the product is a living product. It's much more complex. So this is by far like the most complex and the hardest thing we've ever built. But it's also the most satisfying because you see the results instantly. I think with the AI infrastructure we're building out now as well, it's just a fundamentally different way of building games. And so we're starting to onboard other developers. And so we're starting to see instances where people can bring games to market in, you know, not months, but within like 2 to 3 weeks. And so the world is just very different as a developer then, because you can have 50 or 100 games that you've built, and then each one of them serves a slightly different audience, and creatively is much more interesting as well. There's a huge space for novel experiences on Telegram. So anyone that can deliver something that's new and isn't like another tap to earn game or is a bit different really has a strong opportunity to stand out. The other thing I would say is that Telegram is a very unique ecosystem. It's not something I appreciated when we started. Like, if you're working with the traditional kind of Web3 KOLs or, you know, just posting stuff on X, there's a huge like portion of that Telegram audience that you'll never reach because they're only in Telegram. And so actually you have to find Telegram native channels to reach these users and engage them. And so I would tell people to become Telegram native, like hang out in many of the bigger Telegram groups, buy Telegram gifts, give them to your friends, go to these different communities, and really like immerse yourself in Telegram's unique culture. Because if you're a tourist and you're just, you know, an outsider that's just building like what you think Telegram users want, you won't succeed.
Could you please tell us where our audience can follow the Goat Gaming updates? And do you have any message to the community or to the user who haven't tried Goat Gaming, to your community, and to those Web3 gaming players?
Yeah, so I guess on the first point, your question, for players to follow us and stay updated, you can follow us on X. I think Play Goat Gaming. I need to double check that. But yeah, you can follow Goat Gaming on X. On Telegram, it's Goat Gaming Bot, all one word. Follow us there to stay updated. I think message for our community is the same one that I always say, right? So our community is the reason that we built this. Like that without them, we wouldn't have a product or company. And so we're very grateful for all the support they've given us and that they continue to give us. And they're really the most important constituency. You know, as CEO, sometimes you have to take unpopular decisions, but it doesn't mean that we don't listen to what everyone says and take it on board. It's hard, right? Sometimes the right decision for the product is not always the most popular in the short term, but you trust that the long term it will work out. And then for new players, I'd say, look, like Web3 gaming is starting to take shape. I think we've had a few false starts, but I think with Telegram now and the reach that you can have and people finding new mechanisms that aren't the pure kind of play to earn, like it's actually becoming a really interesting space. And I'd encourage anyone who's curious about the space to, you know, go on Telegram and check out Goat Gaming Bot and come get involved. Yeah, that's it.
Can you please tell how you guys can secure the ecosystem? Because you know, AI always this farming scammers always hack the system.
Yeah.
Do you guys planning to have a special security, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the benefits to having a studio which is AI native is that we're very good at using AI to spot AI. And so we're constantly updating the ecosystem and the rules and how we detect farmers just by monitoring the logs and applying our own technology. Like recently we made a change to how referrals work. Like historically you'd get a reward for everyone you referred. Now you are required to get that user up to level 3 before you get a reward. So if I invite you to play as my friend, I won't get a reward until you hit level 3. Level 3 is actually very easy to do. It takes like 20 minutes maybe. But we saw some players complaining that the requirement is too hard for referrals, and that tells me they were using bots. So it's pretty easy to spot these things for now, but it's a constant fight. It's a game of cat and mouse, and it's something that we monitor very closely.
I think that is one of the risks when we include the AI to the project, because at any time these hackers, these scammers can just things like we here in our end, we are some products that these scammers are getting us crazy. But I think that's how the ecosystem works. Always there are parasites.
Yeah, I mean, where there's money, there's always going to be that, right? That kind of behavior.
Yeah, correct. Even blockchain is not yet born, the scammers are everywhere. But yeah, kudos for that adding layer of security for the AlphaGoat, and it will definitely make sure the good use of the Amy AI. But wait, last question, Simon. Do you guys planning to have another AI agent aside from Amy?
Yeah, I mean, players have their own AlphaGoats, and each one of those eventually will be unique. So there'll be thousands of unique AI agents, yeah. So there'll be many, many more.
Wow, it's amazing. I think this is a really will be high competition in the future, because AI is, you know, it's awesome and really good in performing difficult tasks.
Yeah, agreed.
Thank you so much, Simon. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Please join us for next time for more Web3 gaming scoops. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.